recording. And the topic for today is security. Like, started recording as well. So it's an interesting topic. There are a few things that we need to discuss before we move to there are two there will be two more small lectures remaining that I will try to just complete one of them again today, because looks like, if I'm not wrong, the next week will be the penultimate week, the second last week, and then we'll have our last week on uh, 18th. Like our project presentations are on 18th. If I'm wrong. So anyhow, next, I think while you were studying the relational database course, you would have studied the security there as well a bit, because as I see in that course, we had a security lecture last week in relational databases, so you would have also gone through that. So agenda for today is that we'll be discussing authentication and authorization, and then authentication modes that we have, then role-based security, and then security logs. So that would be our the topic for today, and we'll see some demos as well, and then we'll just try to jump into some other concepts. So authentication versus authorization. So these are all mostly these things are the common sense sort of things, because one database developer, a person, they are already right now discussing about them. So authentication, the process of confirming the identity of a user that has permission to access to the server. So if a user has access to the server, we'll say that this is the so to identify them is basically the authentication. And what is authorization then? On the other hand, process of determining which secured resources and authenticated users. As the name suggests, authenticated, someone type of things, what type of jobs a person can do by SIG authentication. This is experience that yes, there are modes of it. The one mode is Windows integrated security. You remember? You can call it a Windows security or integrated security. So it looks like this will be happening today. My internet stop my video as well for some time. Let me share my screen again. So what was the last thing that I said during the session? I don't know, because suddenly this meeting got disappeared from me. Can anyone help me out? What was the last thing that, what was the thing that we were discussing, or what was the thing that I was saying? Maybe anyhow. So use Windows users and groups. Yes, start of two modes. Yes, you're right, Alex. Thank you, Ivan. So two modes, Windows and mixed. These are the two modes, and we'll see those two modes. We'll see the demonstration demo of those two modes as well. So two modes, Windows, aka security, and then use Windows and group. That depends upon the Windows users. and we'll see that today. Where what are the things that we are using? Then we have a mix, and what is that? Uses user password pairs stored in SQL Server. Sometimes we do SQL Server authentication. Sometimes we do Windows authentication. And you remember that we have seen the Windows authentication and SQL Server authentication at different places. And again, as I said, we'll see the demo of that as well. Which authentication mode we should be selecting? Controller is used. See, application and database are on the computer when we are talking DB. So we are using so, and then we say that application and databases are on the same computer. So computer they are relying on, and they will be running on local DB or maybe SQL Server Express UV. SQL Server login is a bit different. It says work group, so it will be working in a work group. Users can connect domains. They can connect to the different application login. So again, as I said, only ask for can be viewed in SM. SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio, by the way. Right click on connection in Object Explorer, properties, views, security page. So let's go back. Let's go to security page. Okay, so let me change my internet. It's failing miserably too much. So I'm just changing my internet connection. Maybe I'll be disconnected again, yet again. So I'm sorry about that. I'm changing my internet connection. Okay, am I? Looks like I'm not disconnected while I've changed my internet connection. Alex, am I audible now? Like again, I'm still connected with you people because looks like this. Okay, thank you, Alex. Thank you very much. Okay, my screen is not shared rather, so I'll just share my screen back. Right. So these are the two modes. If you can you people see my screen now? Maybe anyone, Alex or Marisa and anyone? Okay, Marisa, thank you. So now we have these two authentication mode over here. So with Windows authentication mode and SQL Server and Windows authentication. So okay, that's good. That's good. So it means that last internet was not doing good. Anyhow, so Windows. So if we set up Windows authentication mode, we are just right now talking about that only we will be enabling our the domain controller users or our users to just log in into our SQL Server. Rather, we do what we have this by default this selection of SQL Server, SQL and Windows authentication mode. This is called the mix mode. When what we are discussing. It will be basically called as what the mix mode. So we have this login option. So SQL Server, we have these two options as we talked about: Windows authentication, SQL Server login. And what we do is that this is third one, which is mixed of these two. So we talk about this mixed of these two, which says SQL Server and Windows authentication role. So we usually do not play with that. But again, these are the authentication controls that we talk about. So this is the demonstration, small demonstration of that. Now, authentication, if you have a choice between Windows authentication mixed mode, use Windows authentication. So there is a recommendation for that choice. Why don't we have a choice? We want to be capable of using the SQL Server users also to log in, or maybe Windows users. Sometimes that will work for you, that you have both of the options available to run to connect to your system. So use a strong password, and that is something for security. If you talk about security issues, that is the big the biggest concern, that always use a password that is very, very strong. Strong passwords are always highly recommended. So instead, create another user with the same sysadmin role, and what you do is that you can create another role in the sysadmin role, a user. That's always highly recommended. When you'll talk about when you will go and work in your cloud applications as well, they say that you have to create another system admin, and that system admin should be capable of working on that. And your main system admin role, or the system admin role, which is basically by default the owner or everything, that should not be doing those kind of things, that because accidentally anything can happen. So if using user input for connection string, use SQL connection string builder. So there is a string connection builder. You remember we have talked about a SQL connection object in very detail. So there is something called a builder as well. If you have user input, for example, sometimes you have as you have done in your assignment as well, you are taking the input connection string from the user. So use string builder to create the string, and you will be using that. Right. So then we have role-based security, which is quite obvious, and which is quite well known already. So now when we talk about this user-based role-based security, SQL Server user role-based security, permissions assigned to a role, a group of users can also assign permissions to single users, but not recommended. So again, we have this interesting thing that we try to assign the role-based security to the different objects. Provides greater ease of managing permissions, like system access in general, assign permissions to a group, then assign users to that group. So what we'll be doing is that you have this role-based security. You define a role, and what you do is that you just try to access or try to give people whom you want to do a specific job. You will be giving them that role, and they will be just doing that role-based sort of thing. Fixed server roles. There are certain fixed server roles. I'll show you where are that. Predefined sets of permission to manage use and maintenance of the database server. Sysadmin role has unlimited permissions, irrevocable. So sysadmin is always the master of all, that has unlimited permissions, and as they say that it's irrevocable. There are a few detailed document also if you want to just go through about that, and I'll be coming to the demonstration shortly. So predefined sets of permissions associated with the use and management of specific database. So there are certain database roles that you talk about. When you talk about database level, there are certain rules. Predefined sets of permission associated with the use and management of specific database. Public role, all users inherit the permissions of public. So whenever a user is created, whenever a user comes and joins or works on a database, it's basically a public role that they adapt by default. Then we have DBO, database owner. It's basically a very important role, and we'll see that can do anything with the database. Members of sysadmin server role are mapped to DBO. So whenever we define a sysadmin, it maps to DBO, database owner. It becomes database owner. Irrevocable permission. So if you are just basically giving them that become irrevocable. Guest prevents the need for each user to have the user account in the database. So there's a guest user, as you know that we have that guest user, and you want to just access that. If you really need one, grant minimal privilege. So you remember we used to discuss about the privileges. You can just assign those privileges to the users, but use the minimum privileges. Why? Because you don't want anyone to accidentally make changes to your database. Okay, so here I will just ask all of you to just come to this one, and we have to just play something very interesting. I'm expecting all of you, means there are only 4 people. So all of you would be over here right now, and we'll see that how we can create users and how roles, and how we can just work on those roles. So I'm right now connected with like two of the things, but I've just connected with the two servers. Let me just close them down and let me just connect with first. So you remember this Windows authentication and the mixed authentication. If you have allowed the mixed authentication, what will happen is that you will have this facility of selecting this SQL Server authentication as well, right? So right now what I'm doing is Windows authentication. I'm just connecting it with Windows authentication. Right. So I am done right now connected to it. Right. So inside that you see there is a user there is an option of security. If you go inside that, so we are talking about server roles. Let's first talk about these are the server roles. You see bulk admin, DB creator, disk admin, process admin, public, security admin, server admin, setup admin, sysadmin. So out of these sysadmin that we have discussed, so these are the default server roles. So there are different types of roles. These are called the defined default server roles, and out of them, as we said, the sysadmin is the role that we basically talk about. That it's the master of all, or it has. So it's the server roles. But right now, what I want all of you to do is that inside go to this logins, and you see that there are users being created. Lots of users have been created. Few users already being created by the SSMS, and there are few users that we can create for ourselves, and we work on that as well. So these are logins, these are the users, and we talk about these sort of users, and when we talk about so if you go to this logins and just click a new login, right, and all of you with your own name maybe. So I've just created Noman, so I will create one Noman 123. Right. So all of you just follow it up. I'm just creating a new user and I'm giving SQL Server authentication, right? And I'm giving a very easy password of 1234, 1234, right? And for the checking purpose right now, I'm just doing that enforce password policy, because you'll have to just change that. In a production environment, you'll always be doing that. But right now, I'm just doing that. So I'm just removing that so that I don't need to change my password. So I have got, I'm trying to create a user, Noman123, that has password 1234. Now see here, if you talk about these, for example, server roles, right now it is showing that public, right? Let's come to this user mapping. What specific database I want it to be, to be bound with, bind with, right? So for example, I say that I want to connect it with Conestoga and customer. These are the two databases that I want to connect it. And what I want from this is that I want to be the DB owner for both of these databases. So for this database also, I want it to be the DB owner, right? And then press OK. Now we have this user created, Noman123. Can all of you see that? Okay, now I'm closing this. I'm going to databases now. Now I've given databases, like we have database Conestoga, which has different tables. Let me see that how many tables. There is no table in Conestoga. Unluckily, are there any tables in customers? Yes, there are certain tables in customers. So we'll play with these customers. But again, anyhow. So now if I want to give this Noman123, the new user, any specific, accessing permissions, accessing rights, what I'll do is that, for example, if I go to this DBO album, and let me just quickly see that if there is some data so that we can, oh, there is no data in it, no problems. Oh yes, so it has data, db.customer, so I've done that, so just close that one, because we can see that difference between. And how about the orders? Let me see that, do orders have some data? Yes, orders also have. So we'll be playing with customer and orders, right? So we have got this one table, customer, that I want not to be accessed by Noman123, right? So what I'll do is I'll right click on this customer. I'll go to the properties. I will go to the permissions, right? I hope you're following me. Now here, which user I want to access? Search that user. And the search user is quite easy. You can just type the name as well, but I don't want to type that. I'm lazy enough. So I'll go to browse. And do you see Noman123 user over here? I've clicked that Noman123. Press OK. Then again OK. And you have got this Noman's permissions over here, Noman123 permissions over here. Now what I want to do is that I'm right now inside this table, customer. So I say deny, 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 deny. So I've denied everything for Noman, 1, 2, 3. Forward for table customer. Right? Let me just say okay. That's all done. So table customer has been denied for Noman 1, 2, 3. Everyone getting that? Now what we can do here is that I want to connect, like I'll be connecting with one more user, and I want to connect here with SQL Server, and which one? Noman 1, 2, 3. I want to connect with Noman 1, 2, 3 user, right? So let me just do that, and let me just log in that 1, 2, 3, 4, and press OK. So now you see that I have got Noman also connected over here. This one is the Noman's 1, 2, 3, and this one is what? Simple Noman, or my, the regular one, or the default one, which I generally use. Now, yes, so I have connected with this one. So let's open it up. Let's open the databases. Let's open the customer database, and let's open the tables. Okay, we see the table over here. Let's see if I'm able to run that, or I'm able to just execute that or not. You see here? Anyone, why I'm not able to access the data? Because this says what? The select permission was denied on the object customer database customer schema DB. So basically, this customer, like this, this user from which I'm logged in with, is not allowed to access this table. I hope everyone is getting that. Till this point, everyone is following me. If you can just respond in chat window, I've just placed the dash line. Yes, thank you, Alex. You're getting that. Marisa is also getting that. Right. So I'm expecting everyone rest also. Okay, so that's basically what we have denied, sir. So this was the denied. So now I'm just closing this one. I'm again going back to my usual one. And in orders table, just select this orders table and select properties again. Fran, thank you. I can see your message as well. Now I've selected this, looks like there was some internet problem. I've now selected this DBA orders. You can select any table. And I've gone to properties again, as I went in the properties of that one. Now you go to the permissions. And again, access the user. Don't type it again, just to save yourself from something and being a lazy one, right? So I'm just only going to select. And if you, so I'm just trying to access few of the fields. I want to access fields, not to be accessed by now, right? So if you select that, you see column permissions over here. Click on that column permissions. Do you see, everyone see this type of thing? Like all the fields, all the column permissions are visible now. Now what I do is that I will say that customer ID should be accessed, order date should be accessed, order ID maybe should be accessed, but product ID should not be. The user Noman 1, 2, 3 should not be able to access the product ID. I don't want Noman to access this product ID. I say okay and okay. Right. Now just close this one, or go to this one, and let me just select this one and select top 100 rows. Okay, so do you see something? What is happening? It's not allowing me to access everything. Why? Because it says that the permission, the select permission, was denied on the column product ID. Now, how I can access over here? If I just delete this product ID from here. Do you think it will access now? Do you think it will access now? Anyone? Tran, maybe? Marisa says yes with a question mark. So it looks like not sure. Tran, or maybe Alex, or I think Daniel has also joined us. Daniel, anything from you? Okay, that would be, of course, that looks like that would be capable of doing so. Let me just execute that. Now, to see everything? Yes, right? Taken out that field which was disallowed, which was not allowed for Noman 1, 2, 3. So this is one good way of creating a user and then implementing an object level permission on that are just allowing few things. You are allowing, the second one is by Noman 1, 2, 3 user. since I did not allow any other database, so if I go and click this one, I get what? Not accessible. Why? Because of course, because I am not permitted for anything else. If I go there, no, not allowed. I will only be allowed to go to the Conestoga number one and to the customer table. And even in the customer table, you remember, if I go to this customer and I select to that, it will just disallow me and it will say that your database, like you are not allowed to use that. Right? So I hope now you are getting the concept. So these are the users that we have created, and we have just tried to implement those users and things like that. Now let's talk about let's go back to the slides first, then we'll talk about a few things. So we are just talking about these are the and one thing that I forgot. If you talk about this, close this database. If you talk about the security, as I said, and I think I discussed about that. So server roles, these are called the server roles over here, right? And these are the server roles over here. And if you talk about the databases, and you go to the database, for example, I go to the Conestoga because I've given this permission to that. And if I go to security here, go to roles, you'll find that database roles and application roles. If I open that database roles, you see that we have these database roles over here. And what are the database roles? Access admin, but the same as we saw. Data writer, DDL admin, DB owner, something, whatever. So it has two types of roles, one of the application roles, another database role. And these are called, the system roles that have been already been defined by the users. And if you want to create a new role, go to new database role. And what you can do is my DB role. For example, I'm just creating one thing, anything at all. Who will be the owner of this role? You can just select owner from this part. And I say that I want to select maybe Noman123 becomes the owner of this node. It's basically, and schema zone is basically, I'm saying DB owner, etc. And then I'm doing OK. So my DB role is here. So I can just define this DB role. And this will be called as the user defined DB role. The previously we talked about, it was system defined or database defined DB roles. And now we are talking about the database defined. So this was basically the role-based security. Fixed server roles. There are sysadmin is one role as we saw, and there are database roles that we can talk about. So database roles, that there are some predefined set of permissions associated, and there are something that we have just tried to create by ourselves. Right. So now let's talk about something, schema representation separation. This is another very interesting concept. There is something called a schema. Let me jump back over there, and let's see what is the schema over there. You see that at the database level also you find schemas. These are the schemas that have been created. And what is the schema? The schema is basically something that is associated with the user, that when user will create something, what schema will be followed. For example, Noman123, when Noman123 will be accessing something, what type of schema would be followed when Noman creates a table, Noman creates something, a resource. So that resource might be accessing or might be able to access what type of things. That is basically done by the schema. That is decided by the schema, right? And we have a schema on database and on server level as well. If you talk about, if I say, for example, if I talk about this one, just collapse everything. And if you come into security, right? And oh no, it's basically on the database level, right? Okay, so this is basically what the schema of something, and we want to just create the schema, and we want to just create that. As you said, the add flexibility to managing database objects. Schema is a container namespace for a group of objects, can apply security rules to schema, which allows all objects in the schema to inherit these rules. As a matter of interest, the DBO you see in the object names in SSMS are not the users or roles, they are the schema. So DBO we see, database owner, is basically a schema. That is a small tricky thing that you need to keep in mind, that the DBO that is used is basically not the role, or rather it's basically a schema that is adopted by the different elements. Right, so user schema, principles of least privilege also is always consider granting the least permissions to users or roles that are needed to accomplish necessary tasks. When developing, it's tempting to use sysadmin account to temporarily avoid security issues, but please don't be tempted to that, and always try to create least permission user roles, because You never want to see your database destroyed by a novice user or a person who is not technically sound, who does not know how to just work on that database. You don't want your database to be destroyed by that person. Better to use least privileged user account while developing. Now we have seen that schemas and all those things, server objects and object explorer, database object. So we have, okay. So if you see, yes, I was trying to find that. This server roles, these server roles will be, these server roles are basically the schema, as I said. So these are the schema over here. And when we say that these are the schema that will be followed if the sysadmin or someone will create something. Right. So any security logs, this is very interesting. Any security related events are logged in the Windows event log, accessible through normal event viewer, also accessible through management folder of the database. Now, very interesting concept is that it creates all the logs for us. Go to management from the server side. Go to management, and here you'll find SQL Server logs. If you just click on it, there is a very interesting concept related to it. How many of you are seeing this 7 or maybe 8 or more than 6? Yes. So Marisa, how many server archives you are able to see there? Okay, Marisa can see 6. And rest maybe Fran or maybe anyone else. As I said, this Daniel also joined us. Looks like yes, Daniel is here. 6 for you. Okay, right, Fran. That's good. 6 for you. Of course, this will be 6. Now let's do one thing, and then we'll discuss where they are coming from. If you click on this server, configure. So you will be seeing 6 over here, which I have changed by default. So limit the number of error log file before they are recycled. So we have done, I've done this 16, so you would find 6 over here. So default setting is 6, and we can just change that settings over here. And what is that? What are those? So it always, whenever we just refresh our server, like close and open that server, the oldest one. So this oldest one will be pushed up, maybe, and one another will be added when I just restart my server. So whenever server is restarted, those they just keep on updating and just change. And if I click on this current one is called which one right now, which is accessible. The one that is you are writing now. And you can just access to SQL agent one and the database, etc. These are all the options that you can just always use. So if you want, you can just access these users, or otherwise you can say that I want to see this current archive only. The current archive is done what? Sometimes that something has happened. I have just redone something. I have just accessed something. I've just installed something. All this is appearing inside what? Our, the server event logs. So these are the event logs that we can just see what is happening and what has happened to my database just recently at the recent time. And that can be just used. Okay. Close. Right. So this is basically what the server logs that we can generally use. Security logs, the event logs. We have seen those demonstration of something. So references are there that you can just get security, or if you want to just access few things. Right. So this was a very small present, the lecture about the security. And we have got 2 more left, and I will be just trying to follow it up with 1 more, because the other one is also something that we have already done very appropriately before. So I'll just quickly discuss that one, and then we'll discuss, as I said, if you are one that I call you for the discussion on the assignment, I'll be discussing that assignment, or maybe you can just go and prepare for your other lectures and things like that. Okay, so has any one of you called, like maybe texted on a private group or something which you have maintained and which you basically run for your class? Like as I said, that people should join today and they should be discussing. So for maintenance, you have already worked on that maintenance part. That's why I will just quickly look at it, and I won't go into deeper details because you already know you have done an assignment on that fragmentation part or something. So the agenda for this one is index fragmentation, data and log files, backup and restore, SQL Server agent. So these are all the agenda for this one. You remember index fragmentation. So first of all, you've been asked, because you have done that after a number of insert, update, delete operations, the index can become fragmented. You saw that, you try to solve that problem. Most common, rebuild the index on a scheduled basis, SQL Server 2005 plus alter index. You remember, rebuild, reorganize, and SQL Server 2000 DBCC DBRE index and DBCC index defrag. Use SMS. So you, when you were doing your assignment, you have done that tables and tables indexes, right click on the index and rebuild or reorganize. So that is basically, index fragmentation. Autogrow is generally enabled. Autogrow for both should be fixed amount, not percentage. Database properties files in SLS. So again, autogrow, you remember, if you have done autogrow and autoshrink, you have to do what? You have to just take care of those autogrow and autoshrink, and you can always find that in database and properties and files in SSMS. Again, whatever database you are talking about, you can just go to that database. For example, let's talk about Conestoga. Right click and properties. And what is the next one? If you see that, so it's basically properties and files. So then you'll be just accessing those files. Right. So here you have this option, and then you can just work on that. So it's basically a small what you have done as assignment, maybe one, or it was very early days. So you can just do that auto burn auto string for over here. Now, log files grow very large fast, so truncate or shrink. If you need full recovery, backup first and then truncate or shrink log. If you don't need full recovery, like development DB, make sure database simple recovery model, then shrink the log. So again, that is also one of the consideration while maintaining your database, that you have to, if you are looking for a full delivery, full recovery, you will be just first backup and then truncate the shrink. And if the other way around is that you don't want the full recovery and then you want that, you will be just simple recovery model and then shrink the log. So that is something that you have to just take care. So why backup? Media hardware failure, user error, natural disaster, malicious activity. That is, these are all those type of things that you have to just keep in mind, that you have to just consider while you were just trying to backup and restore, right? So backup and restore, backup types: full, complete backup data that we talk about, and then we talk about differential backup changes since the last full backup. So basically, log files are backed up separately. So can be truncated automatically as part of log file backup. So that's basically, these are the the options that you have. So more details using T-SQL. So you can just access that one, and you can just find out. Right click on database, choose task backup. MySQL dump, generally you used to use in MySQL when you were working on the MySQL one. So restore is using T-SQL, using SQL. Right click on database, choose task restore, and that is something that you can just do by yourself. SQL Server Agent, last one, the service used to manage jobs made up of steps. Steps can be in context of T-SQL, PowerShell, ActiveX script replication, analysis service. So if you remember that, we can just do what? To manage jobs. These are services used to manage jobs, and we can use any of these options to just access these stuff. So schedule, alert, and notification, that is something that you want to just keep on that. So top tips for effective database management, maintenance, and how do you clear SQL Server transaction log, backup and restore SQL Server databases and SQL Server agents. If you are interested, you can just always go and read about them. That is, again, as I said, that this will be a very small sort of one. So as I said, it was also supposed to be a smaller one, and then there is one more, NoSQL, which is a good one, and then looks like so I will be discussing that maybe in the next week's lecture. And today I will be giving you again time for your projects and everything. And those whom I've asked, so this is the NoSQL database that we'll be just covering in the next one. It's a very important one, and then we'll see that what are those NoSQL databases that we want to share. So any questions thus far? If you have, you can just ask, or otherwise I will put you in breakout rooms. And it's up to you if you want to stay here in a breakout room and work on your project or assignment. That would be very good. And if you want to just if you want to work on maybe isolation or something, then you will be able to just work on your own project. So any observation, any question, anything related? I'm still saying that you can ask those people